So this is the two-sample proportion z-test. So when do we use this test? So we use this when comparing a categorical variable of 2 levels with another categorical variable of 2 levels. Now, what I mean by levels, it means that it's just a number of options that this categorical variable has. So for example, gender has 2 levels, males and females. If you have another option for gender, like other or non-binary or anything like that, then it wouldn't be a categorical of 2 levels. Okay, so you have a categorical of 2 levels with another categorical of 2 levels. And I put here an example. Is there a difference between males and females with brushing your teeth? And here, brushing your teeth can either be a yes or a no. So I can either brush my teeth or I cannot. So this would be a really good example of using a two-sample proportion z-test. Now, if you have multiple levels, this test is not appropriate for you. Okay. So here's my example. My example here is there a difference between drinking alcohol habits among males and females? So we're going to use the college data in StatCrunch to construct this test. So before we do the test, let's go back to our data. So I have my data here, and we're looking at gender with whether you drink or not. Okay, so one way that you can look at it graphically is to look at a bar plot with data. So let's go ahead and look at gender, and let's go ahead and break it up whether they drink or not. So if you go ahead and look at that, you can kind of see that the number of people who drink compared to males and females, well, they're about the same. I don't really see that there's any difference here. So you can kind of, it's maybe females might be a little bit higher, but it's not too high to the point where I think that there might be something different. And I apologize if you hear background noises. My cat is playing. So, but anyways, so I don't see a lot of considerable difference. Something else that you can do is that you can go to stat tables and look at a frequency table. So we can look at the ones who drink, and let's group it by gender. And then what we can see in this table is that for females, from the 39 females, 18 drink, from the 40 males, 16 drink, and it tells you the relative frequency. So is this 46% considerably different than this 40%? Okay, so here is something that you can kind of just go ahead and eyeball. So this is basically our summary stats. Now we want to test it, okay? Because this is not me testing it. Me looking at this and saying, well, I think 0.46 is much larger than 0.4. That's not going to do it. How considerable is that difference? So this test is what's going to tell us whether this is significant or not. So the way that we're going to do this the following way. So we're going to set 2 different variables. One of them is going to be called P1. This is going to be the proportion of males who drink. Okay. Then P2. This is going to be the proportion of females who drink. So notice that we only have 2 options. Now, my null hypothesis, my HO, is going to be that the proportion of males who drink is going to be equal to the proportion of females who drink. So here it says that there's no difference. There is no difference between drinking habits and gender. HA is going to say, no, there is a difference. P1 is not equal to P2. So there is a difference. Maybe women drink more than males. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this out. Now, I wrote a couple of summary statistics for me. So like one of the things that you really want to look at is how many females you have, and how many among those, how many drink, and also how many males you have, and among those, how many drink. So if you have your analysis worksheet, I wrote down the steps there for you. So all you got to do is you're going to click on stat. You're going to click on proportion stats, to sample with summary, not with data. Because with data, it can be really hard. You have to have it's a little complicated. So with summary, it's actually a little more easier. So here, sample number 1. Now, if sample number 1 is going to be the one with the 1. So I let P1 be males, okay, and I let P2 be females. So I'm going to say sample number 1 is going to be the one with males. Sample number 2 is going to be the one with females. So you have to keep track of that. So males, okay, so for males, we have that 16 of them. Okay, so we had 16 of them out of the 40 that was sampled. Okay, drink. Okay, and you can see it. I have this side by side, 16 of the 40 males drink. For the females, we have that 18 of them out of the 39 drink. Okay, so that's what we have. Here we have a hypothesis test. Here, all they just did, they put the P2 on the other side. They just subtracted P2 to the other side. But this is basically what you want. So don't move anything here. Here would want to not equal to. So we want to perform a hypothesis test, compute, and here we go. So here it tells us also the count of this first sample, 16 out of 40. Here we have the count of the second sample, 18 out of 39. Gives us the difference, standard error, and some other stuff. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for the p-value. The p-value is 0.5807. So let's write that down. So our p-value, okay, our p-value is going to be 0.5807. I believe that's what it was. Yeah. Okay. Now let's compare that with my alpha level. This is going to be 0.05. Okay. So now what can we conclude? Is our p-value low? Heck no, it's not low. Our p-value actually is greater. So can we reject HO? No, we cannot reject it. So what we conclude based on this test is that we fail to reject HO. So what can we conclude? We conclude that there is no difference between alcohol habits and gender. Okay, so our data indicates that there is no difference between the two different populations. Okay, so this is basically all you're doing. There's very little math. The only thing that you really have to worry about is figuring out what P1 is, figuring out what P2 is. Okay, not figuring it out, but labeling what those are. Okay, so label what those are, write down your null and your alternative, and then go ahead and perform the hypothesis test. Okay.